Will India be the next China? The whole world has been shocked by China's phenomenal progress during the past 3 decades. China has become the world's top economic powerhouse as a result of all the megafactories and businesses locating their industrial facilities there today. With annual growth rates of 6% over the past 30 years, China has the world's fastest-growing major economy. With a total fortune of $996 billion, it boasts the world's second-highest number of billionaires. China is home to 129 of the world's 500 largest corporations. China is home to 109 of the Fortune Global 500 firms as of 2017. China is the world's largest manufacturing economy and products exporter. It is also the world's fastest-growing consumer market and the world's second-largest importer. By market capitalization and transaction volume, the Shanghai Stock Exchange and Shenzhen Stock Exchange are among the world's largest stock exchanges. Shenzhen's economic progress has earned the city the moniker, the world's future Silicon Valley. The question upon us now is whether or not India can become the next China. But China is no small nation, is it? Speaking of economic prowess, will India be able to meet up with China's? Facts tell us that China's private sector generated between 70% and 80% of the country's GDP as of 2018, as well as 80% of urban employment and 90% of new jobs. As a result, the country's unemployment rate is only 3.8%. With $27.39 trillion in total deposits, China also has the greatest overall banking sector assets in the world, totaling about $40 trillion. 268.76 trillion Chinese yuan. It possesses $3.1 trillion worth of the highest foreign exchange reserves in the world. This is not to say that India is not currently doing well for itself at the moment. Considering that India, which has a population of over 1.1 billion and a developing middle class of about 350 million, is frequently regarded as one of the biggest emerging markets on the planet, we can say that perhaps India has a chance. When considering the Indian consumer market, it should be noted that in addition to having a sizable middle-class population, it also has 54% of the population under the age of 25, or more than 500 million people, which ensures future growth in labor availability, productivity, and consumerism. Brazil, Russia, India, and China, or BRIC in short, are a group of nations that have started to take full responsibility for the growth of the global economy, according to Goldman Sachs, a renowned consulting firm. According to current BRIC research, India will surpass most of the G8 nations in a few decades, starting with the UK, Italy, France, and Germany by 2025. In the world of emerging economies, the Indian economy is currently expanding at a rate that is second only to the Chinese. The government of India has made an early repayment of a $3 billion high-cost loan to the World Bank and the Asian Development Bank, with the possibility of other similar loans being repaid early due to the country's long-term sustained economic growth. This clearly demonstrates the level of confidence in India today. Developments in the Indian economy during the financial year 2006-2007 have been marked by rapid expansion over sound market economic fundamentals in recent years. Although there are some concerns about inflation, a fast assessment places GDP growth at 9.2%. According to the Asian Development Bank, India is expected to develop by more than 9% between 2007 and 2012. This level of certainty is critical for industry movers seeking foreign direct investment or trading opportunities. India is primarily an agricultural civilization, with a vast population reliant on agriculture and related industries for a living and subsistence. India is the world's largest producer of milk, pulses, sugarcane, and tea, with the second largest arable land area. It generates around 33 million tons of fruits and 62 million tons of vegetables per year. The total food market in India is expected to be $92 billion, with processed food accounting for $30 billion. India is the world's biggest livestock producer. It has the highest number of cattle, including buffaloes, the second highest population of goats, and the fourth highest population of sheep. The indicator of industrial production for the period April through November 2006 shows that the Indian industry has been growing steadily. The general index of industrial production increased by 10.6% in the first 8 months of the economic year 2006-2007 compared to 8.3% growth in the same period the previous year. Basic metals 20.4%, transport equipment 16.3%, machinery equipment 14.1%, non-metallic products 13.7%, cotton textiles 13.1%, rubber and plastic products 11.9%, metal products 6.8%, and wool 6.6% are the industrial sectors that have grown significantly faster than the previous economic year's growth. India is not only a large market for passenger cars, it is also a prominent player in the global auto component industry. The auto sector was valued at $34 billion in 2006, with a compound annual growth rate, CAGR, of 14% over the previous 5 years. The overall number of automobiles sold has surpassed 9 million and is anticipated to increase further. According to industry experts, if current trends continue, Indian automakers might be able to sell more than 10 million vehicles in the coming economic years. India has the world's second largest two-wheeler market, also the world's fourth largest commercial vehicle market. India ranked 11th in terms of passenger automobile market size before 2015, but 7th as of 2016. Since 2001-2002, the automobile industry's installed capacity has increased at a compounded annual rate of more than 16%. In 2005-2006, it produced 1.7 million four-wheelers, passenger cars, light, medium, and heavy commercial vehicles, and multi-utility vehicles such as Jeeps, and over 8 million two- and three-wheelers, scooters, motorcycles, mopeds, and three-wheelers. These are some commendable feats, to say the least. Various foreign leaders have made investments in the Indian automobile sector, both for manufacturing and research and development. Mercedes Benz, BMW, Porsche, Audi, Bentley, and Rolls-Royce are all available in India. Audi AG, a German premium automobile manufacturer, is also planning to enter. This excludes businesses with production facilities in India, such as Nissan, Toyota, Honda, Hyundai, GM, and others. Tata Motors is already present in the Turkish market, and Mahindra is attempting to follow suit. In the 15 to 90 horsepower divisions, Mahindra has emerged as the fourth largest tractor brand in the United States. India's competitive advantage is not solely due to low costs. It is about the ability to provide full service supply, FSS. In terms of jewelry, India is the world's largest diamond cutting and polishing center, with a 15% to 20% increase expected in the next years. In the past few years, total exports from this sector were at $16 billion. According to a McKinsey report, the branded jewelry business in India was worth $2.28 billion as of 2010. The market of non-branded jewelry is estimated to be over $10 billion. India is the world's greatest consumer of gold, accounting for 20% of global consumption. In terms of importance, the largest markets for Indian gems and jewelry are the United States, the United Arab Emirates, Hong Kong, Belgium, Israel, Japan, Thailand, the United Kingdom, Singapore, and Korea. India's prowess in the information technology sector has been demonstrated on numerous occasions in the global market. This industry was predicted to be worth $54 billion by 2008, with a cumulative annual growth rate, CAGR, of 21.1%. The overall number of professionals working in the information technology and enabled services industries is anticipated to be more than 1.2 million. Now, India doesn't sound so bad, does it? Let's not forget, it is China India aims to become. So one might ask, what about China, or China's economy, is so applaudable that India is currently seeking to become like it? See, China is currently classified as an upper middle-income country by the World Bank. Their rapid economic expansion, centered on raw material production, low-wage labor, and exports, have allowed the country to raise well over 800 million people from poverty. It has also invested in healthcare, education, as well as other services, which has resulted in considerable gains. However, after 3 decades of explosive economic expansion, China's economic growth is currently declining, with GDP growth falling from 10.61% in 2010 to 2.2% in 2020, owing partly to the aftermath of the COVID-19 lockdown, before rising to 8.1% in 2021. That's not all. China's rapid economic expansion has resulted in a significant increase in bilateral business connections with the US. According to trade figures from the United States, total trade between the two nations increased from $5 billion in 1980 to $600 billion in 2018. China is the United States' largest merchandise trading partner, third largest export market, and largest import supplier. Now, that's just awesome! Many American corporations have large operations in China to sell their products in the thriving Chinese market and to take advantage of lower-cost labor for export-oriented production. A big portion of China's rapid economic growth is often attributed to 2 key factors: significant capital investment, funded by significant domestic savings and foreign investment, and high productivity increase. These 2 elements seem to have coexisted well. Economic reforms raised the economy's efficiency, which increased resources for new economic investment and increased output. China has consistently kept its savings rate high. Domestic savings as a proportion of GDP was at 32% when reforms were started in 1979. The profits of state-owned enterprises, SOEs, which the central government utilized for domestic investment, produced the majority of Chinese savings at this time. Decentralization of economic production was one of the economic reforms that significantly increased both corporate and family savings in China. As a result, among the major economies, China has the highest gross savings as a share of GDP. China has been able to support significant investment thanks to the high level of domestic savings. In reality, China's gross domestic savings greatly outnumber its domestic investment levels, making China a significant net worldwide financier. You could see why India would want to up its economy. China's impact on other developing nations' economies through trade, investment, and ideas is expanding. Many of the difficult development difficulties that China faces, such as changing to a new economic model, increasing aging, establishing an affordable health system, and supporting a lower carbon energy route, also apply to other nations. China's GDP growth has been anticipated to drop significantly from 8.1% in 2021 to 2.8% in 2022 as a result of several internal and external challenges. Extreme weather events and widespread Omicron epidemics have slowed economic progress. Following Russia's invasion of Ukraine, the external environment has also considerably deteriorated, with declining global GDP, skyrocketing inflation, and tighter financial conditions. If we compare the per capita income of India with that of China's, there's a lot to take a look at. China, whose global production by value was just 3% in 1990, increased to 25% in 2018, and as of now, it manufactures 80% of the world's air conditioners, 70% of its mobile phones, 74% of its solar cells, 60% of its shoes, 50% of its coal, 45% of its ships, and 50% of its steel. China is in the lead in Apple exports to the global market, with a market share of 50%. The difference between China and America is 6%. China has the second largest economy in the world, with a nominal GDP of $14.140 trillion, ranked second in the world, and a public-private partnership, PPP, of $27.307 trillion, ranked first. With exports valued at $2.5 trillion, estimated in 2018, the Chinese economy overtook the US to take the top spot in the global export rankings. On a nominal basis, China and India are the world's second and fifth largest economies in 2021, respectively. China ranks first in terms of purchasing power parity, while India ranks third. In nominal and PPP terms, both nations account for 21% and 26% of total world wealth, respectively. Among Asian countries, China and India account for more than half of the region's GDP. In 1987, the nominal GDP of both nations was about identical. In 1990, China was marginally ahead of India in PPP terms. China's GDP is now 5.46 times that of India as at 2021. China's GDP per capita is 2.61 times that of India. On an exchange rate basis, China passed the $1 trillion threshold in 1998, while India did it 9 years later in 2007. Until 1990, both countries were neck and neck in terms of GDP per capita. According to these metrics, India was wealthier than China in 1990. China was over 5.4 times richer than India in nominal terms and 2.58 times richer in PPP terms by 2021. China and India are ranked 63rd and 147th respectively in terms of population per country. China and India are ranked 76th and 130th in terms of population per person respectively. China's GDP growth rate ranges from negative 27.27% in 1961 to a maximum of 19.30% in 1970. India saw its highest ever rate of 9.63% in 1988 and its lowest ever rate of negative 5.24% in 1979. China expanded by more than 10% in just 22 years between 1961 and 2019, but India never did. For China and India, the GDP growth rate was negative over 5 and 4 years, respectively. India's GDP was composed of the following sectors in 2017: agriculture, 15.4%, industry, 23%, and services, 61.5%, according to CIA Factbook. In 2017, China's GDP was divided into 3 sectors: agriculture, 8.3%, industry, 39.5%, and services, 52.2%. In 1987, the nominal GDP of both nations was about equal. However, China's GDP, $14.140 trillion in 2019, was 4.78 times that of India, $3.202 trillion. China's GDP, $27.307 trillion, is 2.38 times that of India, $11.321 trillion in PPP terms. In terms of exchange rates, China passed the $1 trillion threshold in 1998, while India did it 9 years later in 2007. In terms of GDP per capita, both countries have been neck and neck. According to these methods, India was wealthier than China in 1990. In 2019, China is around 4.61 times wealthier than India in nominal terms and 2.30 times wealthier in PPP terms. China and India are ranked 72nd and 145th in nominal terms, respectively. China and India are ranked 75th and 126th, respectively, in terms of per capita income. Currently, India has a plan to become a $5 trillion economy by 2025. How? Is this even possible? India would have to invest $4.5 trillion in national infrastructure by 2030 in order to achieve its goal of having a $5 trillion GDP by 2025. In order to address the problems of a significant demographic economic trend by 2030, it is predicted that 42% of India's population will live in cities, and there will be 68 metropolitan areas. This investment must be implemented quickly and effectively. Citizens require effective services like transportation, sanitation, and others to make cities sustainable and livable. Cities can help businesses grow, give more employment opportunities, and improve people's quality of life if they are adequately organized. Municipal governments will have to deal with issues like poor air and water quality and regulatory bottlenecks in order to do it. The PPP model may be a viable and long-term solution for improving the nation's infrastructure. India, a pioneer in PPPs, ranks 70th out of 140 nations for the quality of its infrastructure according to the Global Competitiveness Index. The government has launched a number of PPP initiatives in the last several years for the delivery of time-bound, high-priority public utilities and infrastructure. In the future, the private sector has to broaden its attention to cover underdeveloped industries like electricity distribution, trash management, and water supply. India will require the support of municipalities if it wants to boost the number of infrastructure projects it undertakes and capitalize on its enormous investment needs. According to Union Petroleum Minister Hardeep Singh Puri, India will be the critical driver of demand in the energy sector over the next 10 to 20 years. He also noted that the steps the Indian government has taken to ensure energy security during the pandemic may help the nation reach its $5 trillion economic goal before 2025. We have a problem in the short run. A global economy with $110 per barrel of oil is not sustainable. The inflationary situation in the US is at a 50-year high. Neighboring countries are in trouble. Yet, in India, thanks to the very strong political leadership and far-sightedness of our people, there's no energy shortage here, Puri said. With 60 million people using gas stations every day and a daily demand of 5 million barrels, the minister said that the government of India's actions would secure energy security. Speaking at the three-day summit, India Foundation, a researcher supported by the Bharatiya Janata Party and the Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh, said that India's biofuel blending has already climbed from 1.4% in 2014 to 10%, with a target of 20% by 2030. But we will achieve the blending target by 2025. He went on to say that the government has expanded its oil exploration territory. Although I am hesitant to use the word affordability due to the price rise, there is a degree of confidence I have for energy security because of the increase in the refining capacity. It will reach 400 million tons per annum before long, Puri added. Other positives mentioned by the minister were a rise in goods and services tax, GST, collection, which hit Rs 1.68 lakh crore last month. Attempts to stimulate entrepreneurship. India will have 44 unicorns by 2021, and the government's endeavors for technological innovation. There is space for expansion in US-India commercial relations, according to Atul Kashyap, president of the US-India Business Council. How the two nations may develop their potential as two powerful democracies is now crucial. Digital economic trade between the US and India, that is over $100 billion, is climbing fast. It is this trade that is the goose that lays the golden eggs, he said. He said that in order to maintain life and expansion, both parties would need to establish frameworks, rules, and laws. But does everyone share this belief that something like this will happen anytime soon? You might have guessed it right. No, unfortunately. Chakravarti Rangarajan, former governor of the Reserve Bank of India, stated that under the current circumstances, India cannot become a $5 trillion economy by 2025, and if it is ever possible, the country must expand at a rate of 9% per year for the next 5 years in order to do so. Rangarajan said in his address to the 11th convocation of the ICFAI Foundation for Higher Education that efforts should be made to reduce the negative impact of a third wave of COVID-19 if it occurs, and that both vaccination coverage and the pace of investment in health infrastructure should be accelerated within the strategy of expanding overall infrastructure investment. He believes that when revenues rise, spending may be raised even while there is no requirement to decrease the monetary deficit below the planned level of 6.8% of GDP, and that financial consolidation may begin in the following economic year. With this plan, will India be the next China? Hit that subscribe button and we'll let you know.